internet argument starts. Oh, you silly liberal. I see that you've become upset during this heated internet argument. Did I trigger you? That's right, Snowflake. You seem triggered. You've probably heard that before if you've been on the internet. Pretty much anywhere on the internet. Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, any of those places. Anywhere where there's political discourse, you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, it's either because you're not looking or you're strictly looking at cat videos, which can't blame you there, but yeah. Let's talk about the word triggered. And not in the same sense that you've seen 14,000 other anti-SJWs talk about it. Let's do a little history lesson. Through the lens of me, the MedsPeds. So once upon a time, billions of years ago in internet time, which translates to roughly about 5 years ago, the term triggered started to pop up quite a lot on the internet. But it wasn't quite popping up everywhere at this point. There was one website in particular where you would see the word used, besides, like psychiatry related websites talking about PTSD, just like social media websites. The place that was really popular, where you started to see it a lot, was Tumblr.com, the infamous home ground of the SJWs and modern day feminists that you see everyone complaining about now. Now, as to when actual teenagers started to use the term triggered on Tumblr, I really didn't know. I know when I started seeing it, but I did a little research and I found this BuzzFeed article. Sorry if I know not everybody likes BuzzFeed, but it tells the narrative, so here it is, some information. So here I was thinking that triggered originated on Tumblr, but I was uninformed. It goes back a little bit further than that. Apparently it goes back as far as 2003, so the early 2000s, and it was popular on the website LiveJournal. Some of you old school folks might remember that one. But then it did make its rounds to Twitter and Tumblr around the years of 2006, 2007. See, I was wrong. I thought it was like 2011 to 2013, but what the fuck do you know? I'm not the smartest person on the planet that has an infinite amount of knowledge. But alright, yeah, that's enough background information, and let's jump into how these people would act. You would see young people, usually. There's not too many 40-year-olds blogging on Tumblr about their problems. Obviously, there are statistical anomalies, and I'm sure there's some people in their 40s, but let's not kid around here. Most of these people were preteens, teens, college age, maybe late 20s. This group of people, the evil millennials, the entitled evil millennials, these people would sometimes list in the tags at the bottom of their posts trigger warnings. This was usually sensitive subjects that would trigger a panic attack. I'm not against the idea of trigger warnings as a concept. I think that someone who may have suffered through, sexual assault or a kidnapping or all sorts of stuff. Mainly it was used for people that were in the military, and because there's some traumatic shit you would see doing all that kind of stuff, and that could have easily been avoided, but that's another topic for another day. So I'm not really here to talk about safe spaces and triggering in that respect. I'm talking about triggering in the context of an argument. Let me just paint the picture for you to make this easier, because an example would make the most sense. Okay, so you're going to have an SJW and a centrist having a debate about something. So the SJW would start the post and make a statement. Centrist would reblog the post and put their argument. The social justice warrior would respond. They'd kind of have a back and forth. And at some point, the social justice warrior would then claim that the subject has triggered their PTSD, they're done having this conversation, and the centrist is a fucking ableist asshole for daring to bring up whatever sensitive subject it was. So pretty much back in the days of Tumblr, triggering was a way for the SJW to back out of an argument, and it would be all good because, you triggered them, you're an asshole, let's forget about the subject matter, and let's focus on the fact that you're an ableist person who doesn't take mental illness seriously. So, That's what it used to be. That's what this was, like I said, around 2010 to 2013. You know that the definition is going to change a little bit. Less authoritarian leftist liberals and centrists and right-wingers and tradcons, and then the alt-right, because that kind of popped up a little bit later. All these people collectively decided that they didn't like SJWs, and people started to take screen caps of Tumblr conversations and post them on Reddit and Twitter and things like that. A popular subreddit was called Tumblr in Action. I'm sure it still is popular. I haven't checked it in a while, but I'm pretty sure it still exists. So it became popular to kind of mock these things. And with anything else in life, when it's no longer this like little niche jargon amongst a small group of people on the internet and it becomes mainstream, when you're hearing like mainstream comedians with specials on Netflix naming their shows after the word, this is not something unique. This is, I mean, there's a word for it. Well, 2 words. It's called a semantic change. And yeah, that's what happened with humans in language. Words or phrases tend to change meaning through time. Now it pretty much means you're getting a little upset during this argument. Haha, you liberal fucking snowflake, you triggered. So apparently having a heated debate means that you're triggered. Okay. So I guess I'm just mad that there was a semantic change. Something taken from a small community was mainstreamized. I mean, it's like they sold out. They Green Dayed it. The word trigger pulled the Green Day, and now it means next to nothing. It was totally legitimate to me 5 or 6 years ago because of the context of how it was used. And that's fine. I was totally on board with that. But nowadays, like I said, everyone is calling anyone triggered over anything. So, alt-righters, when you're arguing with someone to the left of you and they get upset, that doesn't mean they're triggered, okay? It doesn't. In order for someone to be triggered, the person that's upset has to claim that they're triggered and then they want to end the conversation. Then, alt-righters, tradcons, whatever you are, then you can laugh. That's the point. That's why it was ridiculous. That's why it was being mocked, is because people would back out of arguments and claim mental illness. Why are they having these conversations and making these blog posts public on the internet if these are truly triggering concepts to them? That's why triggering was something to mock. That's why I hate everything this anti-SJW skeptic fucking movement has devolved into. There were legitimate critiques of authoritarian leftists. That's what this was years ago. But now it's just like anyone who's not in the center or on the right, any behavior, any compassion towards any sort of political cause or problem in this world, and you have some emotion about it, then you're triggered. All these things are being completely blown out of the water into this ridiculous bullshit. This isn't relevant to the topic at hand here, but let me tell you about my breaking point, where I said I'm completely done with this, and I need to really put my fucking feet back into the water. That's not an analogy. What? Okay, no analogy. When I decided to abandon anti-SJWs, I don't like to call them skeptics because a lot of these people are not intellectuals. I'm not an intellectual. I never claimed to be a skeptic. I feel like you should be like using research to use that term. So anti-SJWs. What made me jump ship? Besides my experience with the alt-right that I had in a Discord server, which is now gone. Not talking about that. I may tell that story another day. But I was on an anti-SJW Facebook page trying to promote my channel. Didn't work, obviously. Still haven't gotten partnered. And I saw, I guess you can call it a meme. It was just a picture. It looked like a picture from maybe the 1950s. And it had a blonde man, a blonde woman, 3 blonde children, and a dog. And it said at the top, if this isn't your end goal, you are part of the problem. There's almost no dissent in the comments. Just everything about gay people being degenerate and trannies being crazy and liberals and special snowflakes ruining this world with their multiculturalism and cultural Marxism or whatever. I don't want anything to do with a movement when we're seriously talking about the JQ. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I don't even want to necessarily call anti-SJWism like a movement in of itself, but it is something that I enjoyed for years because for me, I got bored with just attacking trad cons all the time. I started that as soon as I got political, around the age of 14 or 15. So we're looking back like 2004, 2005. I was like, pro-weed and, pro-gay marriage and pro-abortion. I'm just being, a typical left-winger, at least a typical left-winger pre-2010. And I notice atheism plus becomes a thing that is being talked about by some of these atheist YouTubers like The Amazing Atheist and Thunderfoot. And I was like, this is interesting. These people are very dogmatic. These people are very strict. These people are very censor happy. Kind of reminds me of the conservatives. And then I kind of fell down the anti-SJW rabbit hole. And one of my critiques back in the day, back in like 2012, after spending a good amount of time on Tumblr, was triggers. I thought it was completely ridiculous for a person to make a political post, like I said, available to the public, and then become critical when they're challenged. I had a problem with people backing out of arguments. It felt like a fucking cop-out to me, where you can just slap ableist, you lose, because you don't have anything else to say. It happened to me, personally, a lot of times, when I would debate people to the left of me on blog posts. Like I said, something that started off as a legitimate criticism was taken, mainstreaminized, that's not a word, I'm aware, and it's a completely useless term now. It means next to nothing. Even the term social justice warrior has kind of lost all meaning. At one point in time, it was a word specifically used for authoritarian, angry leftists who were big believers in conflict theory. Some of them openly identified as Marxists. A lot of them just borrowed the terminology and the way of thinking from Marxist conflict theory, but they didn't necessarily use the label. But now, like I said, just like Triggered, an SJW is anyone left of center that's passionate about things. And that's kind of ridiculous. So I'm, obviously besides this video, besides the direction of my channel, I'm going to try to use it less. And I'm not going to use regressive leftists because that's too Dave Rubin and fuck him. So I'm just going to stick with authoritarian leftists because I consider myself more of a libertarian leftist and not all the way at the bottom. I mean, I understand that there are systems of oppression and I agree with some of the concepts people that are more authoritarian, what they say. But I don't necessarily agree with how it's applied in conversations and not laws, because these people obviously are in charge, but the way they would want a society to function. I don't necessarily agree with all that. But yeah, giant tangent. Apologize for that. Once again, that's how I do when I'm not doing my little read off the audio videos. That's pretty much my rant about the concept of the word triggered. So, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe. I was going to come up with something witty to say, but I don't have it, so the video ends now.